Last week I bought this Birkin bag at... What? Sorry? You don't know what a Birkin bag is? Oh, well, I thought it was common sense to know what something is. It on average costs $8,000 to $2 million. I mean, that is common sense, but I guess you're just not educated. What, you think you don't know because you just couldn't afford that? No, base, money is just a mindset. You shouldn't think like that. What you should do is thank me for educating you so you don't embarrass yourself any further. In my life, I've been fortunate enough to be given the opportunity to talk with people from different income classes. And I thank them for the most part, for being self-aware of their privileges. But of course, in the sea of good interactions, there's always a few bad ones that are sticking out. And those are the ones we are here to talk about today. Because of course, there are people who were born into their privilege and have just started to assume that if something is considered normal and everyday like for them, then it must be like that for everybody else. You being able to go on vacation more than once a year is a privilege. Hell, you being able to go on vacation, period, is a privilege many people don't have. Being able to eat out every other week or every week is a massive privilege. Having a savings account or your parents to fall back on when you make a mistake is once again a privilege. Your normal isn't everybody else's normal. So I stumbled upon this Instagram post that is really pushing the matter of, if I can do it, so can everybody else. We're the same after all. And I will read to you in a minute, but to generalize it, because I won't be reading the whole thing, she explains how lucky she feels to not have fallen for the America's very expensive tuition fees for college, and instead she went to UCLA and finished her studies there, which is a lot more cheap, I'm assuming. According to Google, it is. I'm not American, but I did do some math for you, so after I read her post, we will get into that. The post goes as followed. I transferred into UCLA, so luckily only had 2 years of absurd tuition costs. I paid for 1 year myself and my parents paid for the other. I was extremely lucky to graduate with no loans. My life would have looked very, very different if I had fallen for their trap. I wouldn't have been able to full-time travel the world like I did post-college, move to Hawaii on a whim with no plan, and I definitely wouldn't have not started my networking marketing business that brought in over 1 million in just a few years. Before I start with what I want to say next, I want to make clear that I'm not hating on people who have the opportunity to do something they love without having to worry about financial costs. I just want to put into perspective that a lot of times those people don't recognize the amount of money they already have in possession to be able to do so. To start off, I'm going to be reading off of my script a bit here because I don't know all those numbers out of my head, but to start off, a year in college tuitions in America is on average $27,000. We're going to double that because she stated she went to 2 years before moving to UCLA. And then she went to UCLA, I'm going to assume for another 2 years because on average you study for 4. And at best, with all fees, they did the math nicely for you, it's $33,000 at UCLA per year. Now, if we're only focusing on the university fees, it's still $15,000. That means for the next 2 years, $30,000. Which then concludes her having spent out of her pocket $57,000 American dollars. And after having spent so much, she still had enough to travel full time, move to Hawaii on a whim, and start her own business. Now, does that or does that not make clear that to pull something like this off, you need money in advance? Not everybody has $60,000 to throw out for college and then afterwards move on like nothing happened. That, my dear friend, is called a privilege. And I'm not saying privilege in itself is bad, but not recognizing the fact you have it and then saying stuff like this can be. Another thing I have heard people say is that poor people stay poor because they don't have the right mindset or because they don't invest in stuff and instead they spend every last penny from their paycheck. Have you maybe considered that they have to. Pulling out my Google facts again, 78% of Americans say they live paycheck to paycheck. Another study in 2022 states that 7 million American households skip meals because they simply can't afford them. How do you expect people to invest when they are worrying about the roof above their heads or about eating and staying alive? People can't afford being alive. They can't afford to invest and make more money. They are forced to spend every penny. And people, I don't know whatever planet you live on, but how can you live so far in your own world that you don't realize this? I googled this to have the exact numbers, but I'm quite self-aware. I don't even live in America, but I know the situation is bad. As I said before, being privileged is not something bad. Being ignorant about it is. Trying to normalize your normal and turning it into an expectations for the average person is wrong. In the same sense that just because something is common to you doesn't make it common sense. Think before you speak, people. Please. It can't be that hard. You see, you have this thing in your head there, and I know you do, and just use it. Just put it to good use, or put it to even better use and make it close your mouth. Whichever one you prefer. I know I would prefer the second one, but it's not your choice.